Today we are welcoming David Chavalarias. He's a research director with the French National Center for Scientific Research in France.
So I will make an overview about 5 years of French politics, but I will concentrate on the phenomena. So you don't need to know well French politics to understand this presentation. I will concentrate on both the kind of phenomena and things that we can quantify, and also about the role and impact of the design of the big platforms, the big tech, on social networks and the social environment. And some of these are summarized in a book that I just published that is called Toxic Data. So for now it's only in French, but now there will soon be some papers from that in English. And so I will also present a few insights from this book. So one of my research questions now is to understand opinion dynamics, social networks, semantic social network dynamics, and in particular, I'm particularly interested to understand how you go from this picture to this picture. And this is, for me, it's very stunning because you have one of the oldest democracy in the world. It's the first nuclear power that within only 5 years was just going into the chaos and that almost fall into this chaos. So Trump was very close to have a second term. So let's try to understand how we can both monitor evolution of social networks and social dynamics from the observation of social networks. So how to monitor the evolution of societies and social dynamics from the observation of social networks, and also try to understand what could have been the role of social networks into this decline of the democratic process. In this presentation, I will speak a lot about Twitter. Also, for example, in the book, I'm dealing also with all the other platforms like Facebook, Instagram, etc. But I will speak a lot about Twitter for some reasons that you already know, because it's a platform that gives its data away, or part of its data. So it's for academia. It's easy to study it. But also there is some profound reason to have chosen Twitter. In my case, is that I wanted to analyze online political activism. And when you look at the French political landscapes and what kind of communication medium they use for this communication, for their political communication, then Twitter has a core position. So it's legitimate to use it. So very quickly, for those who don't know already how we can use Twitter data to monitor social dynamics, we are following with this project, which is called the Politoscope here. So it's online at this URL. We are following since 2016 about 3,000 key players in French politics, and also the same in the media landscapes. We also are following some important hashtags on Twitter, like, for example, French presidential 2022. And with that, we have collected more than 400 million tweets within these 5 years, with more than 15 or 16 unique users that has interacted with this device. And when we collect all these messages, as several labs also do, what we have is that we can reconstruct the networks of interaction within Twitter. There is different kind of interaction on Twitter. There is just a retweet, where you just pass the same message to somebody else without modification. You have the mention, you have the citation, etc. Here, we'll talk mainly about the retweet interaction. there is many things to say about all the kind of interaction, but as we will see, in 40 minutes, you will have lots to say about so here, just a reminder, we don't aim at looking at the social dynamics of the whole country, only political activism. For that, Twitter is legitimate, whereas it is not necessarily legitimate to monitor the whole population. But since here we have the key political player, then it can tell us very relevant things on the political landscapes at the scale of the country through this Twitter lens. So when you have somebody like, for example, Greta Thunberg that is tweeting, you have this chain of retweets. So the message without modification passing from one account to another. If you look at several retweets, you have like an array of dense networks of retweets, and this is a retweet graph. And when you analyze this retweet graph with tools from the networks theory, then you can identify some group of accounts that are very well connected together and less well connected to the rest of the networks. And we can show that in the case of the politics, these networks are well homogeneous and they define actually political communities. So for example, if I do this at the scale of the whole networks, for this is in 2016, here this is now well-known Twitter landscapes. Each dot here is a Twitter account. We have 3 months of data from 2016. The small strings here are path of information circulation. And with that, you compute from graph theory the colors, which are the colors here, which define your political communities. And after you specialize this, here we use Gephi, which is a free software. And when you have this, then you can show that the tagging of the accounts in terms of political communities is very well accurate. For example, we have gone through about 5,000 accounts to check if they declare some affiliation, political affiliation, and we had precision of about more than 90% for most of the communities. So when you look at a picture like that, it's really well aligned with what you have in real life. So I will take the raise hand, so I have to stop share because thank you for answering to me. So how we can do? Please write your question in the chat. Yeah, so it's Pedro. If you write your question, I will answer it directly. After we can talk. So if you have your hand raised, please I go on, and when you have your question, I will answer. So this landscape is quite dynamic. So for example, this is the same landscapes, but just before the first round in 2017. This is between the 2 rounds. So here we see the emergence of a new shape, which is triangular. Macron was the winner with Marine Le Pen at that of the first round. And here you have the left, extreme left, Mélenchon, who decided to not take part between one or the other. So you have this triangular figure picture. And also here, what you see in brown, it is alt-intern. So alt-right international, it's account from abroad that came at that period to try to amplify Le Pen messages, or to bring Le Pen messages to their own community to try to spread it. So you see that from this in 2016 to this shape here, which is what after the first election, the landscapes has very profoundly changed. And actually, it stayed like that for almost 5 years with a few changes. So we go, if you now we look at the landscapes now, we are coming from these landscapes, which is 2016, to that landscapes, which is 2022. So here, in this landscape, just for those who don't know French politics, you have the left on the left, the right on the right, the extreme are on the bottom, and the more moderate party are on the top. So you see that here, the more moderate party here are the most represented, with some extreme here that are, well, strong but not connected. And the new landscapes, you have a block of extreme accounts from extreme left here to extreme right here. And as a traditional party here have been weakened a lot. There are just small archipelagos. And this is Macron, so the president. So between within these 5 years, what we have witnesses essentially is a change in the circulation of information, a reconfiguration of the whole Twitter landscapes. In 2016, if you wanted to go from extreme right to extreme left, to extreme right, then of course you have a low level path here. But if you follow the main path, you have to go to the main center. So most of the information was circulating like that. Now the circulation is going the other way. You can really go directly from the extreme left to the extreme right without going through the moderate party. And as we will see, this has some impact for this the current situation in France. Another way to represent this dynamical map is to use what we call what it is called alluvial diagrams. So in this view, you have 3 weeks of data, and you have only 2 communities. One bar here is the communities of Le Pen. Here is the community of Dupont-Aignan, and the 8th of the bar is the number of accounts that you have in this community and that come from previous period or are going to next period. So for example, here the bar of Marine Le Pen are getting bigger. This means that between the 2 rounds, because this is the 2 rounds of 2017, she gained some online activists. And here you see that Dupont-Aignan, which was a minor extreme right candidate, he rallies between the 2 rounds Marine Le Pen, and because he was expected to have some political gain. And you see that only a small, teeny proportion here of its activists or followers are following him in the new Marine Le Pen communities. So here you can see the dynamics and how you have a flow of activists that goes from one community to the other. If you do that at the scale of the whole campaign, political campaigns, you have something like that. So here you have 9 months of the 2017 political campaigns, with here, around here, it's the primary, and then here the campaign is creeping here, where you see the community are getting bigger and bigger. And at the end, you have a winner, which was Emmanuel Macron. What is important to notice here is that you have lots of branching process here, or some extensions here, or emergence here of communities. This is the community of Macron that he started very late his campaign. And this process, in this reconstruction, they all fit some key political events in the real life. So here you really see how political communities have evolved during this campaign. And even small things like, for example, here you have 2 strands here, and these 2 strands are some under the radar community dynamics from one of the main right party that just split and separate from the main parties and do something else. So I will not comment this picture here now because it's French politics, but just what is important is to say that when you have this kind of dynamical representation, all the bifurcation are significant, and they represent some important moments in the political life. And this is another complementary way actually to validate this approach, because you really see that these shapes are meaningful. So now we can do the same with current political landscapes. I will not comment this picture here because this is really French politics. This is the moment when Zemmour, which is the extreme right, has succeeded into taking some part of the extreme right community and the moderate right communities to make his own communities. This one. But we can do this as a scale of the whole 5 years. And if you do this as the scale of the whole 5 years, you have something like that. So here we are in 2017. And if I go quick, we have here 5 years of political evolution. And you see here at the end, this is now this big wave of communities that is growing, which is a current campaign. So when you look at this kind of pictures, there is many things to look at, but I will just show you a few key things which are important. First, look, if I go straight from here to here, you see the difference is that the colors are not the same. Here it is much more darker. Actually, the color code here is that bright colors, like for example here or here, are more moderate parties, and when you go to dark color, it's more extreme parties. So for example, this is extreme left, this is extreme right, another extreme right parties. And so here you see that extreme right has raised a lot between these two presidential campaigns. This bump here is the first presidential campaign. This big bump here is the current presidential campaigns. And what we can show, well, if you look further, is that in France, there have been a shift on all the communities from moderate parties to more extreme parties. So not only there is new extreme parties that have emerged, but there are some activists that shift from moderate party to extreme party and to mainstream party to even more extreme party. And so there is two big bifurcation here. So one is this one where you have the birth of the Zemmour committee, which is this one here. Before Zemmour was in the Rassemblement National, which was one of the extreme right. And the other one is around here, here. I will make this bigger. Yes, okay. So here we are in October 12, 2020. And this is when we have discovered the vaccine against the COVID. And you can see that exactly at this moment, you have this teeny community, which is UPR. UPR is a political party, is François Asselineau, that is growing here and is beginning to be even bigger. And after it becomes bigger like that, and now we have FPH, UPR. FPH is Florian Philippot, which is one of the extreme leaders. And what you see here is that here, in this bifurcation here, you have the birth of a new big communities, where the leader was Florian Philippot. And it is a community that is anti-vax. So this is an anti-vax community, people that are fighting against confinement, against vaccination, etc., etc. And Florian Philippot, who was before extreme right, he begins to have this new commerce, I can say. And you see how he made it. So first he recruits new people, because this is getting bigger and bigger, and also he succeeds into taking some part of the Front National extreme right here. And if you look at how this community has done, here it has getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and now it is one of the biggest community in end of 2020. What is important will be the structural position of this community. We'll come back to this later. So before we go on, because we'll look at how we can observe the strategic manipulation of this informational space. But before that, I will make a small parenthesis about how we can understand the impact of digital infrastructure on social networks. I will not go into details. You have several things in the book, and it would be too long to detail everything. I'll just give you one hint about how I am trying to deal with that. So, nature of online environment. One of the first, so sorry, there's some French at stake here. So one of the French first observation is that the design of the online social networks that are trying to make you have more and more friends through suggestions. Actually, it is made not to have you give you a higher level of information, but to give more flexibility to the platforms to control your environment. Just take an example. On Facebook, you have 338 friends on average. Of course, you don't have the time to read all the information that is produced by these friends. So you use feeds, the news feeds that is made to show you a selection of what is produced in your social environments. The question is how this selection is made. And the fact is that only a teeny part of the social information is presented to you, and the way the selection is made, it is from economic criteria. At least we think so, because most of the algorithms are closed. But it is quite certain that most of the selection is made by economic criteria, which is confirmed, for example, by the leaks of Frances Haugen in Facebook. So you can imagine that the wider is your social environment, the more the platforms will be able to cherry pick within the message of your neighborhood the one that will maximize his profit. So, for example, if she wants to sell shoes, then she will find somebody that is making a jogging and present this from your friends, and after she will present you shoes. This is just a fake example, but this could be this helps us to understand what they could do. So, on contrary, instead of giving you more access to more information, giving some incitation to have more and more friends is a way to provide you more targeted information. Another thing that we can understand about the design of the platforms is the interplay between the design of the platforms and the cognitive bias that we all have offline. So one of them, for example, is negativity bias. Imagine you have these two messages. A vaccine against COVID has just been discovered, and you have in your feeds these two messages. The first one tells you that the vaccine is 90% effective against severe form of the disease, and the other is that the vaccine makes you sterile. Which one you will click on to have more information? So if you take a few seconds to think of that, you will discover that you have like a temptation to click preferentially on the second one, because you want to know what kind of danger you can be exposed to if you get the vaccine. So most of people are biased to click on content that has some kind of negativity in it, or that represents some dangers, because they want to know what are these dangers. And the thing is that the platform is learning from your click, because the platform is trying to maximize the engagement. So the more you click on the negative contents, the more it will serve you some negative contents in the future. So this causes something that we can call algorithmic amplification of negativity, or algorithmic negativity bias. And if you try to summarize this with a very small model or graph, then you have this kind of schemes. So sorry, I have not seen that it was in French, but so you have first the echo chamber phenomena. I did not talk about it, but I think most of you know about that. So which means that people tend to interact preferentially with people that are close to them in terms of here in case of political affiliation. So this is something that we observe, at least for some kind of interaction. For the retreat graph, and you see this echo chamber really clearly. So this will entail some kind of confirmation bias, so the fact that you tend to read something that you already agree with. But you have this recommendation algorithm that will learn from your negativity bias and create some kind of algorithmic negativity bias. So it will, if you have a given level of negativity in your environment, it will increase this level of negativity in the pool of the message that you are shown. So since the environment, negativity of the environment, of the stressfulness of the environment increase, there is another psychological phenomena that comes into play, is that it is well known that your natural negativity bias is increased when you are confronted to more stressful environment. And also your confirmation bias is also increased when you are faced with some stressful environment. So here you have lots of positive feedback loops where you have confirmation bias and negativity bias that help to form echo chambers and algorithmic negativity bias. And this entails more stressful and hostile environment, which feedbacks on the cognitive bias themselves and makes something even stronger. So this can be models. So we have produced a model on that, and this works very well. You can find all the results that you have you are observing either in psychological studies or in communication studies. You can find this with this model. So just this is to say that there is a lot other mechanisms that you can identify on in the online platforms with a lot of feedback loops that makes a social environment that are getting more and more fragmented and more negative compared to what they could be if you just take the information coming from outside in a neutral manner. Now I will talk about what can come on top of that. And on top of that, it's a kind of intentional manipulation. How actors, that could be foreign actors or political actors or economical actors, can use these social networks and digital environments to try to influence their opinions and make things turn to their advantage. So, for example, this is a copy of what has been called the Kremlin leaks. So the leaks from the Putin's headquarters that in 2016, this is a report of a meeting between Putin and his headquarters and military chiefs, where that explains that he was intending to act on the informational environment of the United States in order to bring more chaos as the occasion of the 2016 election, and also to favor the election of Trump. So lots of experts have said that these documents were original. Also, we have to be cautious about that. But when you look at the translation, you see that the plan was exactly executed as it is in these documents. So this is very, very interesting. So what could be this kind of manipulation, either by foreign entities or political parties? The first things that we are all talking about since a long time are just fake news. Fake news, you just spread news that are fake. What we have shown in a paper in 2018 is that when you look when you took into account the social structure of this political landscape, so here you see the political communities, then you find these results that have been found in other papers, that fake news, political fake news, are spreading faster and to more people than any other news. But when you look at the social structure, what you see is that they are spreading faster at the micro level, so if you don't take into account the social structure. But if you look at the social structure, the level of the social structure, they are spreading slower. Actually, here you see that the fake news, which are in orange here, so I have highlighted all the accounts that have spread at some point some fake news, they are in orange. So they are very concentrated in few echo chambers. And mainly this is extreme right and right, a little here. So this is an example about this echo chamber effect in political news, and the fact that fake news is not something that spread uniformly in the networks, but are very localized. The other manipulation that we can see is something like the leaks. So we had the leaks in the United States with Hillary Clinton having the CDC server hacked, and in France we have has been called the Macron leaks, where it is email of the Macron, so the team of En Marche, that have been hacked. And when you look at how it has spread, actually, what is interesting is that you see here the materialization of this international alt-right. I can show you a little film about this here. This is here. Oh, sorry. Do you listen to the sound when I do that?
I don't think we do.
Okay, so it's perfect. It's not necessary. So here you see that the macro leak. What is interesting is that it's something that tried to change the French election in 2017, but the term macro leaks was coined by Jacques Prozobiec here, which is alt-right from the United States. He was the one that say there is some leaks somewhere here, please look at it. And here you will see the trail in the Politoscope data about this Macron leaks affair. So here, all the point here has some accounts that have trying to spread these Macron leaks. And here you see that that you have, I will make just a pause here to explain you. So here, same as the map, every circle is an account. You have a link when they relay the Macron leak things, and you have two communities. Here on the right is the French extreme right, and here on the left it is the American alt-right. And you see that here you look at the date here. So it was only on over 2 days, over a particular period, whereas in French the media are not allowed to talk about politics. And you see that these two communities are drawing, but with some of shift in time, because they are not on the same part, on the same time zone. So when some of them are going to sleep, the other are waking up, and with that they are doing this kind of Macron leak operation. So this is an example of kind of transnational operation, which is completely decentralized, although there is some leader, obviously, to try to change the result of an election. And at the end, if you analyze, there is mainly two groups, so 92% of the accounts that were in the core of this Macron leak operation, there were in only two communities, extreme right in France and also alt-right in the United States. And also, you can notice here the number of accounts that have been suspended by Twitter, which is huge. And this means that most of these accounts probably they will operated by either bots, or they do some coordinated operation, or they do some aggressive behavior. We have other things that we can observe is that a campaign of social unrest. So one of them was sorry again here for the French. I will translate. One of them was a freedom convoy that took place a few weeks, actually just before the Ukrainian invasion. From my point of view, this was a diversion operation that was pushed by the Russians to ease the forthcoming Russian invasion. This is just a hypothesis, but this is really plausible from what you observe about this behavior. So this again is something that has spread across social networks, across different countries. It started in Canada. So this was an authentic movement. Maybe it was helped by foreign interference, but there was some real people. But after it begins to spread in the United States and in Europe, and here this was very suspicious. This is, for example, the evolution day per day of the political communities that were spreading this kind of idea of making a freedom convoy in France. And this is the communities of extreme right, Florian Philippot. This is these guys that make the anti-vax communities, which was not supposed to be political communities. But when you look at it regularly on political issue, he had some position and tried to push the social unrest. And so in France, so you have this operation, and again, we can look at how they get organized online, and they start with very few people. And here, for example, this is the account that participate to this campaign of Freedom Convoy. And because we are observing Twitter since 5 years now, we know which are the accounts that already took part to disinformation. And these accounts are in orange here. All the accounts in orange, they have at least been observed to push some disinformation sometimes. And here you see that there is like real coordination about Freedom Convoy, but you have some accounts that try to push this regularly. And here, for example, this one, which is 101 OCDC, it says an account that has been suspended since. This one also was very active in disinformation accounts. And at some point, they say they will make a social protest. And at that time, it was amplified online, and you see all these activities coming. Hopefully, this does not work. In France, there was a very weak impact, and also in the rest of Europe. But typically, this is a kind of operation that could be profitable to countries like Russia if they want to be let alone for their own affair when they're going to invade some country. And actually, in this Freedom Convoy, if you look at who was relaying Freedom Convoy in the political landscapes, it is here. So left is left, right is right. So here it's a extreme right, which is only this small block of account, very coordinated here. And if you look at, sorry, I go here. If you look at how it's happened in other countries, there have been a report, for example, in the US, that there have been some foreign meddling in this Freedom Convoy movement. So it's one way to use social networks to make some social unrest in an hostile country or some countries that you want to weaken. And this is well known. There is some report from the Senate, American Senate, American Congress, that shows that during the years 2015, 2017, 16, even 17, the Russia has done lots of money and efforts on Facebook to organize social unrest from abroad. So completely from abroad. And also you have another things which is taking advantage of that. It's just for economical reason. You have, for example, Bangladeshi marketing firm that just set up websites that were pushing this idea of Freedom Convoy, but just here for the goal of collecting some donation and make money. So now we come back to the French politic now, yeah, okay, I'm almost done. So this is the political landscapes as it is now. This has been computed just after the first round and until last Monday. So it's 1 week of data. Here, what you see, we have still this triangular shape that we have already observed. Now it's the main parties in France. You have far left, extreme right, and Macron. The other party, which were the moderate party that we see that have been very active in 2017 and 16 and 17, now they are almost disappeared here. They are on the edge, there's almost nobody left. And so in these landscapes, now the stakes for the second rounds will be how these people will go to vote and how you can have some people rallying Macron or rallying Le Pen. So there are many techniques to do that, and we just have seen some of them. But one of them that I will illustrate here is called voter suppression. Voter suppression is that you want the people that could eventually vote for your adversary, political adversary, just either to not vote at all or vote for you, but even not vote at all. So you will call for abstention. So currently, in these last days, there is a lot of hashtags that are calling for voter suppression. So if you look at the militantism here, you have some hashtags that say vote for Le Pen, vote for Macron. This is just to rally some people. But you have also hashtags that say stop Le Pen, stop Macron. These hashtags are not saying Le Pen is good, Macron is nice. They are saying Le Pen is worse than Macron or Macron is worse than Le Pen. So if you intended not to vote for Le Pen, just do not vote at all. So we can see where this kind of practical discourse is disseminating in these landscapes. And if you do that, you have this kind of picture. So in orange, it is all the hashtags that are stop Macron. So it's stop Macron, jamais Macron, dégage Macron. It's these things that say Macron is really worse than Le Pen. If you don't like Le Pen and you don't want to vote for Le Pen, don't vote for Macron either, just don't vote. And here it's stop Le Pen in green, so it's the same, but symmetric. And in yellow here, it's people that say, I will not go to vote. I will not vote for either Macron or Le Pen. They say, without me on April 24th. So what you see here is that the people that say that won't go to vote, they are mainly concentrated in the France Insoumise, which is a far left. And this is very strategic for the extreme right, because extreme right, if the far left were voting, the far left will not vote for Le Pen because it's just the opposite. So they will eventually vote for Macron to try to avoid Le Pen. So if you want to make Le Pen win, what you want us to do is to make the extreme right just not go to vote. The same could be happen for here. For example, if you want to disfavor Le Pen, you can say that the right that is very close to Le Pen, more close to Le Pen than for Macron, you try to make these people here in blue to not go to vote. This is not what happens. The abstention is only on this side. Actually, it's also the most important because Mélenchon was the third highest score in this first round. So here you clearly see this strategy of voter suppression. And this has been possible now, and this is very particularly efficient now, because now between the extreme left and extreme right, you have this community here that we have seen before, which is this anti-vax community led by Florent Philippot, which is not it is not presented has political committees in the sense that it has no political program. It does not to try to get some power, but it is there precisely to make some connection between extreme right and extreme left in case of the second round, like Macron-Le Pen. And this is why some abstention message can come until LFI. Not only, of course, there is other reason, but this is one of the things. And I will show you some kind of message that are circulating. So now we are entering in the phase of the meme war. Meme war is account will spread on the social networks some emotional images to try to have people not go to vote or change their vote, but mostly not go to vote, because it's too late for either party to try to convince the electors that their candidate is very good, has a lot of quality. But it's not too late to say that the other is bad or there is a scandal, etc. So we have observed in 2017 this kind of interference. For example, this is the coordination of the 4chan forum between the two rounds, the people that are saying we will flood the French Twitter with anti-Macron message. And actually, this is what we have observed on Twitters. This is a signature of the Twitters, of the corpora of tweets that are against Macron. So 3 times from January to May. And you see that this signature has changed significantly between the 2 rounds, which means that there is a lot of people that from abroad that has started to say, stop Macron, anti-Macron, etc. And this is exactly what will happen now with this is the next round. But the difference is that we have now 5 years of Macron. So we have a lot of picture that can be used to send it to France Insoumise or the people that eventually would vote for Macron to say, don't do this error. This is one kind of picture that we have. We have a lot of social unrest in France with a movement called Yellow Vest, Gilets jaunes, and there's a lot of these kind of terrific images and things like photo montage where you see Macron. This is in his office, but the background is all these things. You have also this kind of memes that are developing, saying that yes, Macron is bringing France and Europe into war, and the consequences will be that you will have very high price for the gas, and also Macron has made the confinement in France. So all these memes will spread, and when you look at where they are spreading precisely here in this area mostly. So they are spreading by these people that try to push this yellow area more and more deeper into LFI to bring the people from the left to not go to vote. On the other side, if you look at what's happened in the right, you have a lot of call to vote. They say, vote, go, vote, go, vote, go. So this could change things. So this is another thing. Okay, so now it's late. So I will stop here. Just to a few conclusions. Go to this is in French, but I will translate it. So the conclusion of these 5 years of observation and also other work in sociology or cognitive science is that you have a kind of interference between human nature with all the cognitive bias, the economic model of the big tech, which has the goal of just optimizing the engagement and the click, and the fact that now this big tech is making the connection between the people. Online, we are no more sending messages to peers. We are sending messages in the wild. We don't know where they go, and we receive messages from somewhere. We don't know why this one messages reach us and not other. And this is all this is made by the big tech. And since the messages we read will determine who will connect to, who will follow, then this means that now social networks are engineered or designed, I mean real social networks, connection between people, by this big infrastructure. And the worst thing is that these big infrastructure are very vulnerable to manipulation, as we have seen. There is a lot of techniques. And the conclusion is that if we stay like that without further regulation on these big platforms, without further education of the citizen, then democracy might be just a transitory phenomenon in the political history. So I will stop here. There's much more things to say, but I think now it's time for discussion.
Thank you, David, for this great presentation. Something that maybe David didn't have the time to show is that the incredible work that goes into doing all of this in the Institute for Complex Science, Complex Systems. Sorry, they have a great team of engineers, experts in visualization. I really encourage you to go visit the site of Politoscope project and the Institute and all the work they do. So we have a lot of interesting questions that are either on the technical side or more on the vision of the system, the social system online. So, for example, some of the attendees are interested in what kind of visualization tools you use in producing the networks we see in your presentation.
So we use different things. One is the standard tools. I mean, standard well-known tools, like for example, Gephi. Gephi is one of the core tools of what we do. It's a very powerful free software. And we also make some custom visualization from just JavaScript libraries that we arrange. I mentioned also, as you say, all this work was done with collaboration with Dr. Chomel and Mazia Panahi, who are now working at ESA, and before also Noé Gaumont. And for example, I can show you very quickly some tools. If you go to this website, so this is the Politoscope website here. So for example, here you have three entry for some visualization. And for example, we have this visualization 2022, where here you took topics, which is defined by some keywords. You see some keywords here. You choose a candidate here. And what you get here is day by day, and this is updated every day. You have the number of messages that of this candidate on that topic, and in a red ball, and also below you have the height of the bar is a reaction of his community, so the attention of community of the candidates for that topics, and below here you have in green the attention for the whole pool of Twitter accounts that we monitor for that topics. And also you get the number of messages that we get day by day. For example, here you see that, here we have collected 2.3 million on the day just after the election of political message. So this is like an explosion just after some event. So this is to help people to browse within this kind of program. And here you have all the tweets of the candidates on that topic. You can change the candidate, of course. You have other things like, for example, the evolution of the keywords specific to the candidates, the evolution of the Twitter's native data, for example, the hashtag of the candidate on that topic. If I change topic, I change the hashtag, the accounts that have been certified. And also here, the media attention. So this is how the media are talking about this candidate when you talk about that topic. So you have this matrix and the media. This visualization, for example, this was made entirely from scratch, from some libraries that make some pie charts, etc. But we custom this to fit this kind of needs. This has been programmed by Mazia.
There are also a lot of questions regarding the treatment of the data that goes before in the clustering and the visualization. Like, for example, people are interested in what kind of link between accounts you select before computing the communities. For example, why retweet and not quoting, for example, and what would entail in terms of the intention of the connection, because retweet speaks to an approval of what the person is saying, for example.
So actually, we have processed different level of interaction. So here, so far, I have shown you only the retweet, because for me, the retweet graph is like a fundamental basis. It shows you the alignment between people in terms of ideologies. When you have this, then you can look at all the kind of interaction. This is, for example, what you will find here. I will show you. If you look at the Politoscope, here we have made studies that we already have done in 2017. So here, now that you know the communities, you can have a look about how they mention each other. So it's not retweets, it's just messages that say, if I am from Macron, I would say Le Pen is worse, or Le Pen is this or that. If I am from Le Pen, I will say, no, Macron, he has not dealt with this and that. So now that we have this structure, we can look at some other kind of tweets. And for example, the mention or the tweets that mention the candidate of the opposite side or your own candidate. When you do that, you have this kind of visualization, and you can classify the tweets in three categories, rough category. One is so you have the tweets that are from one community A that mention community B. I don't know what is not accessible now. Quite amazing. I will show you here the image. I'll make it bigger. So you have the tweet from community A to community B. So I am from community A. I'm mentioning the candidates or the name of the party of community B. You have the tweet from community A that speak about community A, and then you have the tweet of community A that don't mention any communities, that just speak about IDs. So this allows to categorize three kind of tweets that we call hostile, proselytism, and idealism. Why these terms is that because when you look at what are the tweets that what are the content of the tweets that a member of community A, when a member of community A speaks about community B, when you are in a political campaign, most of the time it is hostile. You really can quantify this, and we even have the some kind of sentiment analysis studies that we didn't have time to publish it yet. But if you take some sentiment analysis and AI and things like that to try to learn and classify the positive and negative tweets, and you add this dimension of community, you see that this dimension is the main explanation of the hostility. So when you do that, then you are able to look at what are the propensity of the different community to be either hostile, either proselytist, or to be idealism. And this can help you to characterize positive and negative campaigning. So you see the evolution, and after you can see the what we call the focus of the candidates. It means that to what extent the candidate attract the hostility of the other communities, because it is well known in political science that the more you are likely to win the election, the more the other candidates try to attack you. Because of course there is no point to attack somebody that will not win. You don't just. So when you do that, then for example here this is the evolution. So this was I will try to last time to get the platform. So this is why in 2017. So here you see the evolution of the hostility of the communities through time with the 5 main candidates. So you see that this is going up when you go to the first round. This is the evolution of the proselytism, so communities that speak about themselves. And you see here that Marine Le Pen, which is extreme right, was one of the most proselyte. And this is the evolution of idealism. And if you look at the evolution of hostility, so in green here, this is the average hostility of the whole communities. You see that there is some point here, there is a jump, because this is the beginning of the campaign, and another jump between the 2 rounds, and once the campaign is finished, then the hostility goes down again. So we can talk a lot about that, but I don't want to do more about that. But just to say that once you have this, like the foundation, which are who is with who, then you can add all the layer, and analyze other kind of interaction, like for example, here's a mention, the hostility, etc. You can, and here you are able to interpret these other kind of interaction on the light of the first layers that you have set.
Okay, thanks. So finally, I have a bunch of questions of the public and ones of my own that I will try to ask together in the final question. So a lot of people are interested in how the Twitter system relates to the global system that it's in which it's described, meaning other social networks and what happens in the polls and in the final outcomes of an election. So how to measure exactly the link between Twitter and the outside in a predictive, for example, way, or even if it makes sense to do that. And then coming to my question is the ones I had in mind. For example, for me, it's very interesting. What's the future of this kind of platforms? Because we see a lot of universities, institutes, and even governments deploying platforms to measure political activity online. So what is the future of that kind of activity, and what are the scientific challenges that go inside building what's needed, what's lacking in understanding further what's happening online?
So a very good question. So first, as I said, this is well known, Twitter is not representative of the population. But in case of political campaigning, it is representative more or less, or actually at least more representative of the political activism and the political parties. After that, you have a circulation of information between Twitters and the media. There is several ways to do that, and there is some well-known connection. For example, we know that the journalists are very often on Twitter and that they are looking at the trends. And this is a way, by the way, of the political community on Twitter to try to manipulate the journalists, because they try to manipulate the trends so that the journalists talk about them. So this is one of the well-known loop between media and social networks like Twitter. Also, you often have some tweets on TV. This is, when you think of it, this is really quite interesting, because even in electoral nights, you see some guys that was tweeted something, an unknown guy, and they show it on TV to millions of people. So you have this kind of connection. Also, you have also some crafted connection. For example, in France, there is some new media, for example, CNews, which is a very extreme right opinion TV that was pushing some content with some traditional way, but the team of Zemmour, which was the extreme right candidates, they were working in coordination with CNews, and so you had production of video content on the TV, and after this video content is cut and take on the social networks, and the fact that it's come from TV is kind of legitimates this kind of content, because it's like real. It's not only social networks; it's like real media,
mainstream media.
But through the social networks, it gives them even more exposure that it has, and also something which is important. It gives it exposure in time, so you can take back like a video sample even 1 year before and relaunch it on the social networks to make like a show, a scandal, or something like that. So you see this kind of connection, and I think that there is a real strategy for some party to have both the traditional media and the social media to have this kind of circulation. Actually, it was theorized by Florian Philippot, who is now the leader of the anti-vax, in 2014. He was like defending Zemmour, saying that Zemmour should go on the TV. He should be able to have like a mainstream media audience, so that we have our ideas going into the media and in the public. And this is exactly what happened. Now Zemmour has a lot of emission all these 3 or 4 years, and now he's candidate. So you have this kind of interaction between the traditional media sphere and the social networks media sphere, with make like multiplex networks with some of resonator, and also the effect of the long-term memory that really change radically the informational landscapes compared to something with only radio and television. Now, in the television, in the radio, they are talking about total media. Total media is that you are a radio, but you are also producing video. And the video, you are producing video like a TV show, and they will go on the social networks. So even the media sphere has completely integrated the fact that now information has to circulate through all these layers, and so you have to take to make profitable of all the timescales of these different layers. So you asked a question about the future of that. I think that we are just at the beginning of the social networks. They are like one dozen years old, or less than 2 decades old. This is very young in the social, in the information history. So it might evolve, and also I think that government or citizens, I hope, and this is one of the aim of my book also, will more and more be aware of the danger of social networks that are guided only by private interest. So we might expect to have all the social networks that are either more private but more transparent, or social privacy preserving, and there is some are existing. I think there is some link here, maybe it's about that, but there is some that are starting to exist. And also maybe social networks that are operated by NGO directly. So I hope the information landscape will change in that way, because if we stay like that with Facebook and Twitter and things like that, things will end very badly.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you so much again to the speaker, the host, and everybody who asked questions. And we look forward to seeing you again sometime soon. Thanks and bye-bye.